So we're starting with Simona Vivi Hadjigeorgalis from remothering.org. I had a session with her, but I also go to her workshops and the remothering journey in action. Hard conversations can stir up old adaptations, and remothering ourselves helps us meet those moments, or you could say refathering, but really calling it remother, that's what I'm using now, helps us meet those moments with more self-trust and less self-abandonment. Growing up in an emotionally immature system often means that real relational conversations were not modeled, and those patterns can linger. So what about when you gather the courage and you say the hard things calmly, clearly, but the other person still shuts down, explodes, deflects, denies it ever happened, rewrites the story to protect their self-image. So not all hard conversations can become healing conversations, especially when the other side of the table lacks the capacity, the willingness to meet me in a shared reality. I could bring my most thoughtful, grounded presence to the moment and still feel met with distortion, dismissal. It doesn't mean I did anything wrong, but it means I've hit the edge of what they're able or willing to hold. I don't need to walk away, and also I don't need to push. I don't need to, because of that, walk away or be pushed to stay. It's permission to notice what's true and to allow the clarity to inform the next steps, whatever those steps may be. And her website is called remothering.org. So remothering myself helps me find my footing inside the murky moments, helps me hold my center even when connection does not flow the way I hoped. My worth is not determined by someone else's ability to understand me. My clarity is still valuable even when it's not received with grace. It doesn't mean I stop caring, but that I begin to source my steadiness from within rather than trying to manage another person's emotions. This is that inner scaffolding to show up with alignment even in moments that even in the moments that don't unfold the way I hoped or wished. And tending to the vulnerable parts within while honoring the truths I've worked so hard to reclaim. May the harmony we're each learning to cultivate between our two ears ripple out into the world in a positive, meaningful way. So this theme today is about love languages. It's not the love itself. In terms of woundedness, so sometimes we may be afraid of sharing or receiving love. So woundedness, I wanted to discuss. I went to a coda meeting, Codependents Anonymous. I was realizing, and representing anyone, so the shame, the fear, the guilt, or not wanting to deal with life alone, and having important, options, but that's not living with faith in the self, or faith in God that gives the self. Peace, versus the lies and intentions, rage, control, and also this idea of being honest and feeling that I matter and I'm important, and self-esteem from those close. Is all about vulnerability. So sometimes maybe feeling misled, toyed with, screaming versus crying, it's not great choices, like trying to do too much, so distraction, and then commitment and choice because of pressure and loneliness, versus just the trusting that the needs will get met. And any of the tortured, persecuted feelings, we can, start to have that but we can realize that we're coming into safety to fully feel and express the depth and intensity of the emotions. And I know that I wrote this around Father's Day, so I don't remember, is that June, May? So it was basically feeling a lot of cruelty and rejection coming from my father, and noticing it brought up in me the recognition of the patterns of projection because of insecurities, and the idea of finding everything wrong, just as skewed and as when we overly positive identify, so basically, it's idealizing. So red is everything that's not red. So if somebody looks really, really on the outside something, we could say it's when the color red is being reflected, color red's not inside, it's bouncing back. So maybe somebody who seems so they have it together is actually, that's what they're giving off, but we don't know what's really going on. So we don't have to project because of our insecurities. And when being like myself, it could feel hard because I feel like I only have a self for about 7 years, but sometimes it only feels like for 2 years or 1 year or 6 months or a month or a day or 10 years or my whole life, Anyway, the devastation, the heartbreak, and struggling to validate and improve of myself, and all of that leads me to not want to ignore the red flags or abandon my values, and self-awareness of the patterns and seeing that they're in both people in both people and relationships. So when it's in a relationship, it affects both people. So it's not just in people, it's in both people that are in the relationships that it's found. And, I didn't want to make this man, Aaron, like a proxy for my frustrations. At a certain point, I remember, eventually I stopped interacting with him, but there was plenty of times where I continued to interact, even though I felt like he would become somebody who just represented like the frustration, like the frustrator. And I would keep seeking comfort from him, but I felt I had to sacrifice my integrity for it. So it really wasn't remothering to go to somebody who did that. I will say though, on the other side of it, there was a time where I did try to apologize to him, make it better. Dozens and dozens of times I felt that I would try to fix it. And I did once write him a sorry letter. He asked me for that. So I had lashed out because I was so upset. And I felt let me take full responsibility for everything that I did wrong, because maybe if I really do the inner transformation, then the outside will shift. But I still kept feeling like he wasn't affectionate when I wanted him to be warm and soft and sweet-spoken, and he didn't, initiate or be proactive. The things that I wanted, he wouldn't do. And it wasn't I could believe anymore that it was really so hard for him. It was he specifically didn't want to do it because I wanted. Almost like with a cat. I know I'm not going to adopt her, so I don't want her to get attached. So it was why are you using me? And there were times where he would get to the point of disrespecting me without he would soil me and not clean me up. I felt it was so unfair. He would use me like an object and then not clean it. If you have a dirty napkin and then you throw it away, but I'm a human, I have feelings. I felt the inner Shana inside him, he was so abusive toward that on the outside, even though I, protested, it was still hard for him to actually realize that he did have to be responsible for, the way in which his subconscious self was watching and seeing what's okay for people to be treated as. So anyway, I wanted to be a role model. Let me tell him a real sorry. But I took time to really find my role. Where could I find my role? Even though I kept getting upset at him because of things he was doing and the fact that he wanted to get away with bad behavior, and his voice would change when he was telling not the truth, and he would start, I could see in his expressions and in his actions something that felt icky, gross, just a dishonesty, somebody wanting to come from a place, wanted to get away with it, like a pig who wanted to be dirty but also be treated like they're clean and get all the blessings, and who wasn't treating my love as precious and realizing how blessed he was to be close to me. And maybe it's there's more to learn from this, but the idea is that I want to read this sorry letter, but not saying that it currently represents that I feel sorry to him, but this is what I wrote at that time, just a type of love language, learning how to take accountability and responsibility. Maybe no one ever wrote him a sorry letter. And maybe this was going to show him that even when you feel like you're completely right and the other person is wrong, you could always find that the state of being that I'm in, my mind state, my state now, is what's causing me to show up in patterns and resonance. So I wrote, Aaron, dear, I'm sorry for trespassing. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be my real fun self with you fully because of my fear of embarrassment and failure, because I actually care what you think. I'm sorry for making it your fault that I'm so pleased with you sometimes and other times that so displeased. Sorry for shame-based pressurings on you, because it turns out I do at least some of what I've accused you from a different angle, for example, perspective or time. And I really don't mean to hypocritically have double standards where you have to feel inadequate or defective, maybe too. If anyone has to feel it, why should you also, if I'm already feeling it? If I was already. I guess I had been feeling a lot of pent-up resentments for probably more than one reason, including when you withheld satisfaction to feel powerful, rather than be a willing, willful provider for the sake of fostering and initiating a generous, kinder, shared world. However, it's not only that you are unfair and trespass against me, trespass against me or life sometimes, basically saying I'm also life, how should life be treated, as a minimum, if not for the person themselves, but that it's been done to me before, and I don't, so I said it's not only that you were unfair or trespass against me or trespass against life sometimes, or unfair to life sometimes, but that it was done to me before, and I don't want to do those levels. I don't want lying, cheating relationships. I don't want love, and I want love, surrender, co-creating, and home, and synchronicity, and protection, and good company, and good humor. And I'm sorry that I forget that sometimes. And I wanted to pause here and say, I felt that he kept wanting to be able to have options. There was a woman he wanted to sleep over by. It was shocking to me that he would think that was okay if you're in a relationship. Why would you want to do that? So, and he wouldn't let go. He kept needing to hold on to options, or he had to hug this woman. He said because she's not Jewish, because she looks like a man. But we weren't even touching because, so basically if we're not touching and he's able to do that, I felt like he was behaving in ways so irresponsible that they were hurtful. And it was just so unfair, and like he wanted special privileges, but he didn't want to give me special privileges. And I also felt like sometimes he would go to a place like maybe they say like men who don't rush like touch for a long, like until you're in a relationship for a while. Like I felt like he wanted to come from that angle, but then once like certain boundaries like shifted, it felt like all of a sudden now he wanted to go to like the worst things like about touch. Like he would bring up very crude ideas of what he wanted to do, and it was like things that they're not even natural for men and women. They're like, it's like maybe homosexual, like men do it. Men need to do that because they're not dealing with a woman who has the feminine parts. It was like male things that a man would do with a man, I guess, in a way. And he would like spend money on things he couldn't afford, that he said he didn't have money for, but like he wouldn't be saving up to take care of us and me. Like he wouldn't, and eventually there was thresholds that were crossed where he was providing like food and giving some, like, you know, some money and things. But it was, at first it felt like it was just because there was like extra food, like too much food, not because he really wanted to make for me at first, you know, but there was a lot of things matching up. You know, the one who was providing, I was saying I liked what was being provided, and he did please me. He was very interesting. He had a lot of funny things to say, and it was nice to look at with his expressions. He has a very like moving, like, I wouldn't say it's like clay, but his face is like, he has like very flexible features and expression, and like changing like many different faces I thought I got to see. And there was just a sense of like, no matter, even though if you're going in the wrong direction, you stop and you go in the right direction, it was like I had invested a lot, so I didn't want to like lose it. Anyway, so let me continue this sorry letter. I'm sorry I let people hurt me because I thought it benefited people if I was a martyr. And then now you have had the impact of that because of that. But I was short-sighted and trained in early life to comply in many challenging avenues. And I didn't consciously self-destruct as far as it seems from my perception at the moment. And then I wrote, I gotta go Shabbos in 18 minutes. I love you, please forgive me, love sincerely, Shayna. And so I want to leave off this by saying to us that, actually I want to share two more things. So Rebbetzin Yemima says the lioness has three roles. The Leviah. One, Sa'id, which is hunting. She gives her kids food. Two, Hagana, protection, defends the little ones. And three, Lahaka, gathering, going in groups. So you say this is different types of connection. Defense, providing, giving food, and connecting with others, socializing. And then Herman Melville in Moby Dick, he says, oh, I always go to sea as a sailor because they make a point of paying me for my trouble, whereas they never pay passengers a single penny that I ever heard of. On the contrary, passengers themselves have to pay, and there's all the difference in the world between paying and being paid. The act of paying is perhaps the most uncomfortable infliction that the two orchard thieves entailed upon us, and I think that means Adam and Eve. But being paid, what will compare with it? The urbane activity with which a man receives money is really marvelous, considering that we so earnestly believe money to be the root of all earthly ills, and that on no account can a moneyed man enter heaven. Ah, how cheerfully we consign ourselves to perdition. And we'll stop there. Wishing everybody a good Shabbos, where we are able to create a more loving, generous, shared world together. We're able to get all the provision that we need, all the defense, and always have the connection and community that we need. May we get paid instead of having to pay. May nobody ever have to borrow may nobody ever have to beg or steal. And may we feel connected, safe, and have our discipline that's not fear-based. And may we be remothering and in such a way that we have good footing, and know that what we do in the moments where it's the hardest is we're setting new pathways, new patterns. May our projects turn out well. May we be successful, productive, and free. And may we make choices from a place of being the center of our own universe, of our own world, and recognize we always have masculine or feminine, whatever's needed, and sometimes space to grow and branch out is the holiest, healthiest way to show up. And may our self-love and our self-care and bring us to a higher state of being in resonance, and may we heal in the body and continue, it self-heals, the body self-heals. May we learn from our bodies and have a bridge between the physical and material and the spiritual, emotional. May we have a good rest this Shabbos. As we move into the new year, this is the last Shabbos before the Jewish New Year. May we be satisfied, satiated, and may we have trust, transparency. May we each get the right partner for us, affectionate, sweet-spoken, whatever other qualities would be a good fit. Someone who's a provider, somebody transparent, honest, committing, dedicated, loyal, And may all our hard work show us how worthy we are, and may we see that it pans out and it was worth it. Okay, all the best. Peace and love in all the space, and holiness and health. Full recovery. Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead.